Thank you, Greg. Okay, we've one more presentation before we break for lunch, and to deliver that presentation is Aaron Perry from Conic. Does your design software help or hinder your creativity? Well, Aaron's joining us to explain how modern AEC workflows with creative modeling, AI automation, and open platform partnerships will propel your future projects. So please put your hands together and welcome Aaron to the stage.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, thanks. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. As suggested, my name is Aaron Perry. I'm from Conic. My background, though, is actually in architecture, having spent the last decade or so building and leading the digital design group at one of the UK's largest architecture practices, working on and supporting the delivery of some really complex projects globally. It's nice to be back at Next. In fact, across my career, I've been here a few times before. And through that career, I guess I've always been enthusiastic about technology. I've always had a significant interest in how it can support the delivery of architecture, engineering, and construction. And I've had the opportunity to work very closely with software development teams around the world and helping to provide feedback about what software could and should be doing. However, that enthusiasm has often fallen to frustration. And I was originally part of a very vocal complaint with the team here about what software should be doing and could be doing. And so I was actually here a couple of years ago to set that out. What should the future of AEC software look like? What is it that we need? What is it that we should already have access to in the tools? And of course, being part of that and setting that out, it was then very difficult to go back to the day job, and my enthusiasm shifted, of course, to being part of building what that software solution should look like, which is why I joined Conic. Now, last year we showed a little bit about Conic, and we gave a 25-minute overview of what it can do. I'm not here to repeat that necessarily, but as a reminder or as a refresher, Conic is a highly performant modeler. It's a custom geometry kernel. Massive and highly detailed models are supported right from the browser. And it's the same tool you could also be utilizing, not just to aggregate the models that you have together or to create those models from scratch, but also analyze those models and understand how they perform through things like clash detection. But without a separate authoring tool and clash detection tool, this is all happening in the same place. So as you find problems, you can fix those problems there and then. And with an unlimited licensing model, we don't care how many people how many licenses, individual licenses, it means we can also engage with a model-based conversation. So actually utilizing these models to have a conversation, inviting everybody and discussing the design. We also have fully automated vectorized 2D drawings with annotations and tags. There's a bit of a theme so far this morning. In addition, we want to provide you with new ways to be able to communicate your design with the people you work with. So that's also about being able to understand the logistics and installation and configuration and constructability of your project and being able to communicate that in, again, the same tool you use to model. And all of this without the traditional frustrations of importing or exporting, managing versions, collaboration restrictions. Conic is used today by designers, by engineers, by contractors, even by owner-occupiers. And of course, feel free to get in touch with us if you'd like a more detailed overview of any of those use cases. But as I say, I'm not here necessarily to give a significant product overview. I wanted to really talk about three key topics. Being able to unleash your creativity, being able to reduce time spent on mundane nonsense, and enable you to access today's efficiencies in modern design software, but also be in the best possible position to make the benefit of what's coming next. And these are kind of three principles I think we hear a lot at Conic, and it's about making sure you're maximizing your ideas, your skills, and your experience in delivering architecture, engineering, and construction projects. So let's start with creativity. Our shared frustration as an industry with software comes from battling it, fighting it before we forget our idea. It comes from trying to capture our design creativity before we get deflated by pop-up error messages and annoyances and frustrations with the software. And at Conic, we directly link your creativity to how easy it is to capture and communicate 3D form. For us, that means you need to have fluid and flexible direct modeling, the ability to grab anything, push, pull, twist, and do whatever you need with it. But at the same time, when you need it, being able to have structured object modeling, something that enables you to still deliver BIM projects and quickly develop detail in your models. However, it's not one or the other, it's both at the same time, from the very beginning of a project through to the very end, having all of that functionality. And never having any constraints limiting you to do what you need to do in terms of scale and detail and performance. And when you combine all of that and you add a little bit of kind of secret ingredient in Conic, and what makes us unique, is you end up with a very unique set of principles to enable you to capture your creativity. So let's have a look at a couple of those in detail. Firstly, let's talk about why modeling should be joyful. And it's very easy for me to stand on stage and say that, but it's got to be true. It needs to be easy for you to be able to create any form and explore that form. It should be easy for you to run whilst you have that idea. Direct modeling in Conic enables you to create any geometry, wherever creativity takes you. No pop-ups, no constraints, no locking of floor-to-floor heights in advance, or pre-configuring wall constructions before you can just start modeling. Any point throughout the project. Shared frustration as an industry with software comes from battling it, fighting it before we forget our idea. It comes from trying to capture our design creativity before we get deflated by pop-up error messages and annoyances and frustrations with the software. And at Conic, we directly link your creativity to how easy it is to capture and communicate 3D form. For us, that means you need to have fluid and flexible direct modeling, the ability to grab anything, push, pull, twist, and do whatever you need with it. But at the same time, when you need it, being able to have structured object modeling, something that enables you to still deliver BIM projects and quickly develop detail in your models. However, it's not one or the other, it's both at the same time, from the very beginning of a project through to the very end, having all of that functionality. And never having any constraints limiting you to do what you need to do in terms of scale and detail and performance. And when you combine all of that and you add a little bit of kind of secret ingredient in Conic, and what makes us unique, is you end up with a very unique set of principles to enable you to capture your creativity. So let's have a look at a couple of those in detail. Firstly, let's talk about why modeling should be joyful. And it's very easy for me to stand on stage and say that, but it's got to be true. It needs to be easy for you to be able to create any form and explore that form. It should be easy for you to run whilst you have that idea. Direct modeling in Conic enables you to create any geometry, wherever creativity takes you. No pop-ups, no constraints, no locking of floor-to-floor heights in advance, or pre-configuring wall constructions before you can just start modeling. It's just freedom, flexibility, and being able to get the most value of your time and get that idea down. You should be able to adapt and explore the design at any point throughout the project. The ability to adapt geometry never stops, right the way from concept and early stages through to the very latest stages in the project. Now, the challenge, of course, when creating geometry either from scratch in Conic or from another source, say, for example, you want to reuse some geometry from Rhino, is that the later stages, you require the ability to have that classified form, that structure within the geometry. And currently, you are very likely to spend way too much time on tools and plugins trying to make that geometry useful or recycle it. But the problem is those traditional tools that you have to use today, they panic. They cannot understand or recognize the geometry or the forms, and they often crash. And in Conic, we easily reclassify that geometry, wherever it's come from, using machine learning to automatically classify geometry using the correct IFC class, meaning you can jump extremely quickly from flexible fluid geometry to literally BIM deliverables. All of this geometry, again, can be adapted at any point. You can push, you can pull, you can tweak, you can always add data. It's highly structured, and there is absolutely no drop-off in productivity. Now, when appropriate, it's really important that you are able to easily mature models with familiar object modeling tools. Being able to inherit your organization's content library, copy or place new components around your project, and almost instantaneously build in the detail that you would expect to be able to do. All of this with the detailed BIM data, such as classifications, specifications, connectivity to the Building Smart Data Dictionary, or a custom client data library. Apartment layouts, special conditions, corner units, modular pods, no errors, no fighting, no performance issues. It's really easy to rationalize detail across your project. Now, Conic doesn't really care if this is a 5-story building or a 50-story building. It could be generic in its detail, or it could be a manufacturing level of detail. A historic building with dense intricacies, a massive distribution warehouse, ginormous sports venue or entertainment venue. It makes no difference in Conic, just unlimited and amazing performance. Every single edge, every surface, every piece of geometry immediately able for you to adapt and adjust. And it's fair for me to say that no other AEC modeler offers this. Direct, solid modeling in a browser, on a Mac, on a PC, or a mobile device. And forgive me for getting technical for a second, but this is not approximated mesh geometry that you might see in some other tools. They'd struggle with B-spline booleans. This is our own code, our own modeling kernel. We are not restricted to the tooling we can build in Conic. This is an understanding of BREP, of NURBS, an understanding of sub-D. Conic, this is being used right now to deliver some of the most complex projects, from concept right the way through to as-built levels of detail. And with this modeling kernel, you don't need to slow down or simplify or spend ages opening models. This is instantaneous performance, unrestricted flexibility, with significant amounts of time being saved. Talking of time, that brings me on to the next part. When we think about your time, there are plenty of examples of AI in AEC that can help you ideate. Sometimes mostly making pretty pictures. But what about beyond pretty pictures? We're not talking about optimizing your disjointed processes. We've built procedural outcomes to help enhance your models. We've built augmentations to speed up your experience. We've built pattern recognition to help you classify geometry using machine learning. We're about to show you some examples of some agentic workflows where we can take independent actions to reach your outcomes. Because AI in Conic is helping you execute the mundane and deliver your ideas however they were formed. Now, Conic's entire geometry kernel, our entire data structure, our entire source code is integrated with our AI tooling. And we're getting close to probably triple digits now in the number of automations that we've built, not building, built. These are valuable use cases, things that allow users to greatly increase the value and the quality of their models. Now, we've built these automations around 6 core values. Firstly, finding your blind spots, finding the missing data that you have in your project. But not just presenting that and querying that, actually doing something to fix that problem, improving the data quality, adding new geometry, creating brand new geometry using AI, or repairing existing geometry, and even propagating fixes across your model where viable, or engaging with you when needed. This is about increasing the value and geometry of data to others, as well as your ability to then benefit from third-party automations. Now, I could easily spend an hour going through all of these different examples, but I'll stick with some of the most popular. Without any software experience whatsoever, you or a colleague can click a link, open a browser, and start instantly querying models in Conic. That could be something simple, like how many doors don't have a fire rating. And it's great to get visual feedback as a result of that, but let's actually get some value from this. So for all doors that don't have a fire rating, assign an FD30 parameter. Or adapt the syntax so that all of my doors across this model, or every model in my master plan, 15,000 doors, would all be updated at the same time instantaneously. Now, I can manually adapt them, or of course, I can use these automations to reduce the amount of mundane nonsense we have to do as an industry. And I need to make it really clear, this is not just about reporting bad data and jumping between an authoring tool and a review tool. This is reporting bad data and then fixing it in seconds in the same platform, being able to enhance the value of your model and spend less time doing the less fun stuff. And it's not just data, but it's also geometry. Again, our kernel is exposed, so our AI tooling can use it. So I could say, add 2 layers of moisture-resistant plasterboard to all of the bathrooms in my master plan. Instantaneously, new geometry is created. No billable hours were spent manually drawing additional walls and layers into my project. I can even do things that perhaps we as an industry have decided we shouldn't be doing for the last 10 years, such as adding a shadow gap skirting board to all of the bedrooms in my master plan. No billable hours consumed in this process. Easily able to improve the level of detail of your models. You don't need to simplify these models for better performance. Your models can now be used properly and genuinely add value to other stakeholders in your project. And then how much time do you spend analyzing your models? Or how much time can you spend analyzing your models to then meeting your internal organization requirements or your client's information requirements? How much time do you have to jump between the authoring tool and the review tool, or create scripts or plugins or tools to analyze your projects against information requirements? Conic can automatically evaluate your projects against your client's information delivery specifications. But again, this is not just reporting non-compliance, this is actually fixing the model. Now, as I talk about information delivery specification and IDS, the initiative of Building Smart, it's worth me talking about the opportunities. Why would you not build your entire software and technology stack to be open industry standards? Why would you not use tools and create your software stack so that you're able to be flexible in the tools you want to use? As we've heard across the presentations this morning, things change on a weekly basis. There is going to be a new thing out next week you want to be able to use. But if you think about all those tools and plugins and technology that's emerging that you wish you could be using, the problem is getting design work out of the traditional tools you use without losing geometry or data. Conic is IFC in, IFC out. There is no proprietary format. This is based on an open industry standard. You can use the tools you want to develop design and model data. You can inherit them into Conic and continue editing and adapting them. We can integrate with other open services and standards such as Building Smart Data Dictionary, BCF, IDS. Using our open data and open geometry API, you can pull information out of Conic without losing geometry or data. You can extract everything created during the process without sacrifice. This is about delivering open BIM and avoiding any commercial lock-ins. Now, because of this approach, we're able to announce some collaborations today with 3 key partners in our industry. And that's about retaining muscle memory and extending your creativity, contextualized design development, and being able to implement specialist agents from other tools that you might need. So let's start with retaining your muscle memory. This industry loves McNeil products, it loves Rhino, it has a lot of experience with Rhino, and we wouldn't want to consider you dropping and losing that experience. Now, you've heard me mention Rhino a couple times because we can import a Rhino file into Conic. In fact, the thing I should also mention is if there's an updated version of that Rhino file, we actually only ever import the difference between them, not replace the entire Rhino file. Now, this is not just another plugin for Rhino that imports dead mesh geometry that you can't do anything with. The Rhino file in Conic is fully editable. It is a NURB where you can push or pull any surface or geometry or point. And because Conic is unique and because we have that flexibility, we can also even more so make benefit of your more experienced McNeil users, Grasshopper users. You don't actually need to import a Rhino file into Conic if you're using Grasshopper. As you adapt your Grasshopper script, the geometry bakes live in Conic. So as you adapt and move things in that script, you will see things update automatically in Conic. And again, this is not meshes, this is pure geometry, proper BIM information and data, where you can now take this right the way through to fully automated 2D drawings and delivering BIM information. So, how does your building work in context? That's a question I've always been asking myself. As an architect, I often created new models in software and it was just floating in blank white open space. it was always important for me to understand, how does my building work in that context? How does it sit with its height and its volume? How does the building meet the ground, the landscape, and the pavement? What about orientation and views? Well, by being so open, we can connect to 3D tiles, for example, Cesium by Bentley, in order to get contextualized point cloud data, Gaussian splats, and 3D mapping tiles, and photo tiles. And this means that whilst I am designing, I can understand the impact of that design, all without losing or limiting performance. Again, whilst designing, I can understand the impact of my project, whilst modeling. As an industry, I've also never been able to understand the impact of how the design can or cannot be constructed using systems and products. Again, with Conic's approach to openness, we can easily connect with third-party agents like Cope. Cope converts design intent into high-fidelity construction products in seconds. It enables configuring and optimizing building systems. It makes constructability computable. Whilst designing, I can understand the limitations and the impact to supply chain options, wastage percentages, embodied carbon calculations. Cope's agent is running live and is updating the panelization whilst I design. This is the ability for me to interact with manufacturing level of detail, threads on screws. And you may be very uncomfortable with that, having spent the last decade simplifying your models so that they maintain performance, making BIM less useful for other people, making less people be able to use your models. Today we announce our first agentic integration between Conic and Cope. And we can announce this as well as our other collaborations with Bentley and McNeil and others, because we are not historical desktop software, but modern tools built for the future. We have open data models, open data APIs for geometry and for data. We can connect collaborative users without licensing restrictions, and we can connect agents between tools. We put you, the user, in the best possible position to benefit from modern design software, but also the benefits that will come tomorrow in the tools that you want to use. Now, we've talked about these three themes today. Unrestricted creativity, a modeling engine unique in AEC, giving you unlimited flexibility with both direct modeling and object modeling, all running in a browser, a Mac, a PC, or on a mobile device, without simplification, without limitations, just the full functionality. We can directly impact your time, not just with instantaneous performance of opening models and being able to create geometry, but beyond pretty pictures. Practical uses of AI in your modeling tools, accessing the geometry, the data, finding your blind spots, helping you automatically achieve your client's requirements. And finally, by being an open software, we can enable you with partnerships, with the tools you need to use for those that are best in class at what they do, enabling you not just to have collaborative users, but collaborative agents between your own systems and the tools that you wish you could use. This is the future of AEC design and delivery and construction, Conic. It is the new home for unrestricted, complete performant modeling. It is a way in which you can have unchallenged performance, enabling the workflows that you already do across multiple tools, integrated into one single platform with the ability to remove data at any point without penalty. Conic is free to use on your first project. We'll be happy to connect with you if you would like more detailed examples and workflows for design, construction, and operations. And if you'd like to test any of this today, please feel free to visit our booth outside. If you have any questions, feel free to keep in touch. Otherwise, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your conference.